Christine and Jeff as well. Make Us Visible has been part of this effort for over a year now, and rightfully so. And great to see everybody out here tonight. I know it's a little bit warm here. Try to keep things cool. Try to keep things cool. And I think, I learned a lot just from listening to our panel tonight. And, this is important. It's certainly important to me personally. I'm Asian. Been Asian my whole life. and I say that a lot and it sounds funny, but I'm Asian. I wasn't born and say, hey, I'm Asian. I didn't immigrate to the United States and say, hey, I'm Asian. Actually, I'm Asian usually because other people remind me. My whole life, people have reminded me that I'm Asian. And it was never, or very rarely, in a good way. So this is a life experience that I think we all carry to this discussion. And we have seen these last several years of a global pandemic accompanied by this anti-Asian hate, the likes of which I never saw before. And I've lived here a long time. I'm sorry, I'm from Queens. I got my passport stamped at the border, and thank you. She let me in. This is a very important issue because as we have seen all this anti-Asian hate, there's a lot of things we need to do. We need law enforcement to hold attackers accountable. We need to understand that mental illness is at the root of many of these vicious attacks, and provide the mental health resources for those in need. But my main priority is not about, can we get more hate crimes statutes out there, double the sentences for anybody who's guilty of hate crimes, because honestly, is that really going to deter somebody from conducting a hate crime? I think maybe it's a possibility, but it may get at one person or the next person. What we really need to do is we need to educate. We need to educate people about what Asian Americans are. 2 years ago, there was a study, a survey of 2,000 Americans. Asked these 2,000 Americans to name just one Asian American. Just name one. 58% couldn't even name one single Asian American. And the 42% who could name somebody, the number one response was Jackie Chan. I'm so happy you've all seen the survey. I'm not, Jackie Chan, his movies are a little bit goofy, it's not serious kung fu, it's funny. I like him, but he's not Asian American, he's in Hong Kong. And the second most common answer was Lee Xiaolong. Bruce Lee. Now I do like Bruce Lee, but rest his soul, he's been dead for 30 years. And Asian Americans, pretty much nobody can name a single person, and that's part of, that's where Make Us Visible is their name. We're invisible. People don't know who we are. And when there's a global pandemic, or there's economic recession, or there's war-torn conflict, it's a lot easier to blame people who you just don't know a whole lot about.
Yes.
Blame them. Well, we don't know a whole lot about them. Blame them. When you know about people, it's much more difficult to simply blame them with a blanket scapegoat. That's what Asian Americans have been going through, for generations. Ever since we got here in the 1800s.
Yes.
And the problem is that our schools are not doing the job. Our schools are not including Asian American history and our experience in the teaching of our kids. So the next generation continues to be completely clueless about who Asian Americans are. And so that's why this history and this teaching in our public schools is so important. I'm really happy to see that Herrick's and Great Neck school districts I know Jeff Shee is here. I know you spoke earlier. Our school board member, thanks Jeff for your leadership. This has been, please, Jeff Shee. We need, as was said by this panel, we need more people to run the school board. It's not easy, but you have to become policymakers. You're actually ahead of the curve. You've already started including the Asian American experience in your curricula. In New York City, we never did that. Thankfully, with the new mayor, Eric Adams, as soon as he was elected, because I'm pretty good friends with him, we started talking about how to include Asian American experience in New York City public schools, even though we were still working on the statewide legislation. And so he actually rolled out, we rolled it out together last May during Asian American History Month. And that was a pilot that began last September, and this September it's going out to all the schools. It's not a separate course on Asian American history. It's integrating the teaching within all the social studies classes, all the history classes, because as was said also, Asian American history is American history. And so New York City has done that now. They're catching up to Eric's and Great Neck, but we need the whole state. And that's why I've got my legislation in the state Senate, in the state assembly. It's carried by Assemblymember Ron Kim, who's the first Korean American elected official in New York. We've been pushing it for almost 2 years now, and it still hasn't passed. It's still stuck in committee. You would think that after all of these attacks against Asian Americans, it would be a slam dunk. But it's still a struggle. It's not easy. I know a lot of other states have passed some kind of legislation. If you look at the legislation in other states, most of it has been to add Asian American to the list of other groups, including African Americans, including the Latinx community, including the Jewish community, the Muslim community. Here in New York, we don't have that kind of list. So it has to be a separate bill that actually changes state law significantly. The African American history legislation hasn't been passed for the last 25 years. So our African American colleagues have been trying to do that in our curricula as well. So it's a continuing fight. And we're here in downstate, whether it be Long Island or Westchester or New York City. Up in the North Country, some of my colleagues see absolutely no use and no purpose for this. In fact, we've had open hearings where they liken some of these efforts that we're undertaking to what they call critical race theory. They call that a very divisive approach where somehow we are going to teach kids how to hate each other. Or shame each other simply by being proud of our identities and what our experience has been. So, that is the kind of, it's a big state. And there's a lot of different opinions, some of which I clearly don't agree with, some of which I can't even understand. But this kind of effort gets us closer. It's not going to be overnight. I wish it could be overnight. But we're talking about a generational effort, not just in passing the legislation, but actually making sure all the school districts throughout the state have the materials, have the syllabi, have the guidance and directives to teach Asian American experience. It's great that we have many, many more Asian American authors and authors who are writing about the Asian American experience. Coloring books, great too. I was handed a set of crayons on the way in.
Well, as you're speaking about the coloring book, I'll just take that as my segue in here. We would like to present this to you, Senator Liu.
Thank
So
you.
this is our Make Us Visible coloring book. And don't be jealous, because each family and each person that's been here is going to get your own. We are limited to one per family though. I will ask that on your way out, make sure that you do get yours. Get your copy. This is our first edition coloring book. It features 25 different Asian Americans spanning across 13 different ethnicities, and they are actually from 15 different states. They are all Asian Americans. So last words?
Yeah, I do.
Julie.
I asked Julie if this was my cue to hand back the mic. I mean, look, I think we all understand how important it is to teach Asian American history, and you know, even in this room, there's a lot to be written about. Hasbir's experience, very, very disturbing, but yet happened so much, especially after 9/11. Our ongoing, the Chinese American community, you know, somehow we get to certain positions of significance, and you know, we get accused of being spies, whether it be Dr. Wenho Lee, we have police officer Angwan here, you know, these are, like Angwan, I want to give you a second. It's easy to blame the Asian guy. This guy, after serving the NYPD for so many years, including the Flushing community, suddenly out of the blue, they accuse him of being a spy for China. This is a spy for China, and he's my friend. I mean, I don't know him personally, I just know him from his work as an NYPD officer. And this is the kind of thing that our community continues to go through. All this anti-China rhetoric now. You know, look, I'm American, and my loyalty is with the United States of America. But all this talk about China is having an impact on people right here. So we have to pay that much more attention to what's happening. Anyway, I think I said enough. Julie, thank you very much for talking to me. Thank all of you for being here.
Outside, I do want to shout out to Suffolk County Police that's also here, Thomas Joy. So, and they're actually doing a recruitment, and they are looking for multicultural representation in the police department. So if you're interested in that. But what we were sharing here today is a little bit about what some of the kids were working on. And these are pages out of the coloring book right here. And some of them are the Asian American pioneers. And we've made a quilt of some of our Asian American, some of our pioneers that were in the coloring book. And there's also on the last page of the coloring book, there's a portrait page where you can make a portrait of yourself, because we're encouraging our future generation children to be pioneers themselves. So this is a little bit about what our kids were working on while the parents were in here learning. And isn't it beautiful? Yeah. Thank you, Leah and Sophie. As a thank you, we're going to share a Make Us Visible t-shirt with each of our panelists. And we're going to raffle off some t-shirts too. So you might be a lucky winner of a t-shirt. And can we get a picture?